I'm going to talk in this very first five today about the Seth Rich update, but I want to just mention right before I left home, I saw there was an announcement by President Trump that he will be announcing a new national security advisor next week. He apparently let John Bolton know last night that he would like him to move along, and John Bolton tendered his resignation. I was kind of sorry to hear that. I think John Bolton has been great and wonderful, but we'll see what happens. He indicated there was disagreement between the administration and John Bolton on significant issues recently, and so he's asking to move on. But updating on Seth Rich, we had joining us today in the studio, I think, Ed Butowski. He's a plaintiff in several defamation lawsuits that relate to the Seth Rich murder in Washington and the WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. What I'm going to do is just give you a brief update in this first five before we turn to Ed Butowski. If you were watching our show, I think it was like July 30th, we had Ed Butowski on. I couldn't believe the number of emails I got, people saying, hey, I have him back on. I want to hear about the lawsuits. So we're going to do that today. I just want to give you an update of where we are. To remind you all, Seth Rich was employed by the Democrat National Committee. And during the summer of 2016, numerous emails from the DNC were leaked or provided to WikiLeaks, Julian Assange's website, WikiLeaks. He published them, and it had... people argue about how much, but had some impact on the 2016 elections, not painting Hillary Clinton in very positive light. In any case, that happened. Seth Rich, the WikiLeaks emails were published. Seth Rich was murdered in July of 2016. He again was a DNC staffer. And then Ellen Ratner, a journalist, a reporter, she had a brother who was an attorney for Julian Assange. And Ellen Ratner, on a trip heading home to America, stopped off in London and visited Julian Assange in November 2016. She says in that meeting with Julian Assange, he told her that the emails he'd been publishing through WikiLeaks, the DNC emails, did not come from Russia. In fact, they came from someone inside the DNC. We have Ellen Ratner, and I've played this clip before, but it's so important to recognize she's acknowledged this month. So I'm going to ask the extremely wonderful Matt, the producer, to quick play Ellen Ratner's clip acknowledging what Julian Assange told her. If we have
I know we all I hate these media people. They're the worst. Awful, awful. But don't get hung up on it, because it doesn't have that much of an effect. And they did report the emails. Wikipedia. They went after Hillary.
WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks. Yeah, excuse me.
By the way, just FYI,
I got to take a WikiLeaks.
I spent 3 hours with Julian Assange on Saturday at the Ecuadorian Embassy in London.
Listen to this. Go ahead.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
But one of the things he did say is that the leaks were not from, the Russians. They were an internal source.
Okay, this is huge because this woman admitted this. And so we get back to our story in our first five today. Ellen Ratner, a longtime friend of Dallas businessman Ed Butowski. He's been involved in Fox News too, and they knew each other for quite a while. When she came back, she told Ed Butowski that what Julian Assange had actually said, he identified Seth Rich as the person who provided the DNC emails from the DNC to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and that's where they came from. And that Julian Assange had wanted Ellen Ratner to let Seth Rich's parents know that this is what had happened, that the emails that were published came from Seth Rich. So Butowski goes ahead, he meets with Seth Rich's parents. We're going to get into that story more in detail in a moment. But I'm setting this up to talk about the consequences to America and the rule of law. I want to just make sure that you know what, beside the fact that Ed Butowski attests that this is what Ellen Ratner said, we also had Julian Assange. I'm not going to play this clip again, but if you go back to our July 30th show, I played it then. He acknowledged in an interview you can listen to where he expressed concern over Seth Rich's murder. He actually ended up making an offer on Twitter, a $20,000 reward if anyone could provide information leading to the conviction of whoever was involved in Seth Rich's murder. Understand, Seth Rich was murdered, late night, early morning in Washington, D.C. No arrest ever made, no perpetrator ever located. So he's gone. He's been murdered, and so Julian Assange made this announcement about he'd give the $20,000 reward, and then so he's obviously, in fact, he was asked in this interview, why are you even talking about Seth Rich? And he made reference to, we have to protect our sources. We have to look out. These people take risks. giving us things. So he's more or less acknowledging, although not directly, but more or less acknowledging Seth Rich gave him those emails from the DNC, which, if you're not putting this together yet, changes the whole Trump-Russia collusion story, which I'll get to later. Moving on, Bill Binney is a former intelligence official. He's part of VIPS, or I guess they call it VIPs, Veteran Intelligence Officials for Sanity. He did a review of the emails that were posted in WikiLeaks, and he says that there's no way that the volume of emails produced and published on WikiLeaks could have come from a hack. He's saying it had to be something internal, someone internal at the DNC. Final little piece of this introduction, then we're going to turn to Ed Butowski, who's now in studio. The only official organization ever permitted to review the DNC server, upon which every statement you've ever read in any media source that says that the Russians hacked into the DNC server. The only entity that ever saw the DNC server is a private organization called CrowdStrike, a Hillary Clinton affiliated, Democrat affiliated private organization. They're the only entity DNC let have access to their computers. They produced a report that said, oh yeah, this was the Russians. And every time you've ever read it, in the Mueller report, every place you've read it, that conclusion is based on only what CrowdStrike said. The FBI never looked at the DNC server. No other entity in America got to look at the DNC server, nor did the FBI or the Mueller investigation ever demand access to the server. They did not interview Ed Butowski, who's here in the studio, or Julian Assange. The official line we're all supposed to agree with is that the Russians hacked in, and that is the end of the story. And that, my friends, is today's First Five.